You guys going to watch this Tom Brady roast coming up on Sunday?
I probably won't. I'll miss it.
Yeah, I don't think I am either.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how aggressive they're going to be with him. I think Belichick's one of the roasters, by the way.
I think they're going to be really aggressive.
You think so?
Yes. Here's the dynamic, and I'm not saying this, it's like, people, they don't really understand. But I would say locker room talk cuts like knives, man.
Ooh.
And that is what we're about to get between the former players he played with and even Bill Belichick, who, even in his team meetings, I mean, look, I've never been in his team meetings, but I've been in a lot of coaches who tried to mimic what those are like. And that is not for the faint of heart. So I think it's going to be spectacular, and it's going to be rough.
Like,
who's the one comedian? Is it Anthony Jeselnik who talks very dark?
Yeah,
like about death and everything all the time.
I think he's a Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is, imagine that times 8 people up there just digging in on him the whole time.
The problem is, Greg Giraldo passed away. Look up Greg Giraldo's roast. The stuff is so offensive that you cannot believe that he didn't just get assaulted. Like, he went after everybody from Warren Sapp to David Hasselhoff to nobody was untouchable. And then I think Jeff Ross is going to be. He's always the the roast master, so he's going to be the kind of leading the charge with all this. But I'm wondering which comedians show up. Is Gillis going to get the call?
Didn't they say Kevin Hart was going to be a part of it?
Kevin Hart. I've not seen if Shane Gillis would be. I would imagine they'd be some comedians that have some sort of tie back to Boston, right? Have they said if Mark Wahlberg's going to be a part of it?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I feel like he would be a surprise person to be involved.
I could see that.
Yeah. Well, listen, the one place you're not going to see Tom Brady is back on the field in New England. We can assure you. There was some speculation that, Brady said he would be open to a potential return. He threw out the Patriots, the 49ers, the Raiders, just kind of having fun, a what-if scenario if somebody needed him. The new Patriots head coach, Gerard Mayo, was on the Greg Hill show, and he spoke about the potential of Tom Brady returning to New England.
I love Tom, and the door is always open if he wants to come in here and coach. But as far as going on the field, I don't know. But if he comes in here, once again, going back to the best player will play. You got to come here and compete, and he loves competition. So I doubt he's going to be walking through these doors anytime soon.
If he wanted to come back and play, why the hell would he play for the Patriots? They're going to.
There's even talk of if he wanted to come back and coach. It's like, why the hell would we want to coach? I mean, for starters, he's making $37.5 million to be on TV.
Jeez.
Someone going to pay him that? Maybe playing, but not coaching. I don't really understand. Don't really understand.
If he was going to come back and play, San Fran and Vegas are the places that make sense. Like, if somebody needed him, if there was an injury, God forbid, to Brock Purdy or something like that, those would be, but I don't even think it's even allowed if he's going to be owner of the Raiders that he can come back and play. So the whole conversation was just odd. It's not going to happen. And call me, listen, maybe I'm on an island. I'm more interested in seeing what he's like as a broadcaster than him coming back to return as a player. I want to see how this works. I want to see how good he's going to be.
Back to the roast. So Belichick's going to be a part of it. Do you think it's more of a decision Belichick made almost to get back at Kraft in a way? Is Robert Kraft going to be a part of it? I haven't seen anything that says Kraft will be a part of it.
Yeah, if I was Robert Kraft, I'd probably steer clear from a roast.
You're up next.
Because the problem is, it's not just the guy who's getting roasted; it's everybody else on stage in attendance. You're also going to get it too. And
100%.
So, if I was Robert Kraft, and you don't want any stories about
That's an easy
Florida,
target.
Oh my God!
Easy target.
He steps out on stage. He's got a bullseye on him.
Easy target.
And it ain't on his back; it's on the front.
Dang.
Yeah. But my point is, it seems like he's getting outside the box for Bill Belichick. He was a part of the draft coverage. Now he's doing this. I don't know if this is going to work out well for Robert Kraft.
It's not.
In the end, he's going to look like the bad guy. And people are going to forget about his role in their success in comparison to Tom and Bill.
He's going to become infamous.
Yeah, well, they're going to be out there more.
Dang.
He's going to be sit back in the shadows. But I almost wonder, too, if Bill committed to this before Robert Kraft even could, even if he wanted to. Because now you'd think, oh, maybe they both can be involved. But to your point, A, he'd be an easy target, and B, well, Belichick already committed to it. So how's that interaction going to work out after the documentary came out where Kraft basically tried to bury Belichick?
And also, the more that people talk about the documentary and the more that there's pushback on it, and even Robert Kraft tried to say, oh, well, we didn't have any input on that. And it was like, all right, it's Kraft LLC at the end of the credits each episode. It feels like... Did
they fund it?
Yeah, and
that's paid for it. If you pay for it, you can have a say in what ends up coming out on the other side.
You certainly can have a say in it.
And so when all these former players are coming out going, man, I don't like the way Belichick was being represented, and it's not just one or two. It's Brady, it's Gronk, it's Devin McCourty, it's Rodney Harrison, it's Stephon Gilmore. Like all these guys have come out afterwards.
I was tricked.
Yeah,
like I was duped.
And they're pissed about it.
They were telling me it was one thing, and it turned out to be something else. Like, that's what I've heard.
And so it feels like the tables have turned to where now, Belichick he's got to go. He's the problem. And, one of the pieces of that article that came out from Seth Wickersham and company was that, Belichick kind of views it as if he goes somewhere else and has success, who does Robert Kraft have to blame if the coach and the quarterback went somewhere else and won, and you've still got a bag of crap for a football team that you've had for the past few years? And it's not.
I'll say this: when we first were talking about it, I took a stance like, man, Kraft is Kraft, and in so many ways he is. Kraft is Kraft. But the more I've listened to you guys and the more I've kind of dug into it, it does seem a tad bit curious that the stakes are so high on every little thing that happens. Like, this is just a roast. All it should be is really, it's a roast, right? But yet it still turns into like a politically driven, politics between them and what's going on. And it's like, it just seems all so calculated. Like, who called for the roast, right, with Tom Brady? Because there's something to that. And you got to believe it's something to it based upon probably that documentary coming out. I just think that it just seems interesting now that why would Robert Kraft put himself, you're the owner of the franchise, why would you ever put yourself in a position where you become infamous when you've done so many great things with two of the greatest to ever be a part, more than two, you've done it with multiple greatest ever of all time. Why even go down that? Why let your ego take you down that road? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Remember when Breer brought up the point, and it was kind of, I think we even said, that's an angle of this that we hadn't thought about, but that Robert Kraft desperately wants to get into the Hall of Fame. And that there was some thought that once that stuff came out, where he went to, Orchids of Asia or whatever it's called in Jupiter, Florida.
You love saying it.
It's just so good.
It is a great name
it really is.
To mess up.
It really is. Like
if you were going to try to get out of this one, like, hey, where was it that we caught these people at? It was called Orchids of Asia. You can't get out of the way of that.
He went from Robert Kraft, owner of a team that won 6 Super Bowls, to Bobby Orchids.
Orchids.
With the flip of a switch.
I had at least 20 text messages saying Bobby Orchids. Really? Yeah, Bobby Orchids? It's kind of dope. It's a t-shirt.
So I wonder if he's almost in desperation mode where he's got
to be a great t-shirt.
Bobby Orchids? Come on, man.
Yeah. That's the logo in the background.
Oh my God.
One of those like caricatures of Robert Kraft.
Oh man. Bobby Orchids.
What a design. Where I wonder if he's almost in desperation mode where he's got to try and change the narrative and the discussion about himself because he feels like maybe time's running out and he's got to get into the Hall of Fame. I guess Jerry Jones getting in before him really bothered him. Like really bothered him. And when you think about it, he's got all the credentials. Like he's got all those Super Bowl champions. He's run a successful franchise.
Sure. He's going in, but I don't. He's going in.
Okay. I mean,
there's no way Robert Kraft is not going into the NFL Hall of Fame.
He will definitely make it in. The question is, does he make it in ahead of Mike Shanahan? And the one thing that I think he has going for him that voters will be cognizant of is he is 82 years old. And so I think they look at someone like, I mean, not that you ever should take that for granted. Just because Mike Shanahan's 11 years younger, it doesn't mean that you should surpass him because Kraft is older. But I think there is a thought to that. Like, hey, let's get an older guy in so he can be welcomed while he's still alive instead of potentially after his passing. So that would be the one thought, I think, because it's really between Mike Shanahan and Robert Kraft at this point, is it not?
Why the hell would Mike Shanahan not be in the Hall of Fame by now?
I have no idea. It almost like I when Albert Breer brought that up, I thought he was a part of the Hall of Fame already. I just assumed, and I was like, I looked up, like, wait a second, he's not a part of the Hall of Fame? It's ridiculous.
I mean, like, what other credentials do you need from him to be he's, and is like how many, like, as far as like offensive minds that have changed the game or revolutionized the game, like Mike Shanahan's on a list, right, of guys that have implemented something that is still used all these years later.
Yes.
So
like widely used by the league. It's almost probably half the offenses.
And so you figure the Super Bowls, the Hall of Fame players he coached, his innovations and ideas and stuff that he uses, and still just not in the Hall of Fame. There's no scandal. There's no background issues or anything like that. And for whatever reason, he's still not in the Hall of Fame. It's just odd. So hopefully he'll get in, and hopefully that happens soon. But if you're
Mikey Orchids,
if you're Bobby Orchids, I would steer clear of that roast on Cinco de Mayo.
Hey.
That's not a safe place for you.
He still might get hit with a stray wherever he's sitting. Wherever he's sitting, he's still going to get hit.
Like if you were a professional comic and they called you and said, "Hey, can you come up with some material for us?" If somebody threw that at you and said, "By the way, here's this in case you were interested," that's the open and the close of my set. Like, I would open with Bobby Orchids and I would close with Bobby Orchids. And especially knowing that Belichick and Tom Brady are there just to make everybody feel that much more awkward. So we'll see how it plays out.
I don't think it makes them feel awkward. I think they'd probably just start laughing.
Think Brady would probably feel awkward, but I think Belichick would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, they tried to shame him with that, that walk of shame video from Nantucket last year. Please. Guy trying to have a good time with his shirt off. God forbid he takes home a string.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been Lee for all we know.